I got the email in the middle of my deployment, somewhere between patrols and sandstorms. 11 years of marriage ended in a 500 kilobytes attachment. My name's David. I'm 39, a technical sergeant with the Air Force. I'd been stationed in Al Udeid for 3 months. When Melissa decided she was finished pretending, the subject line read, "Let's handle this like adults." The message was 4 lines. She'd already filed the paperwork. She'd already withdrawn every cent from our joint savings. She'd already moved into her sister's condo in Phoenix with her personal trainer, Ryan. I stared at the screen, blinked twice, shut the laptop, took a walk to the showers, rinsed off in silence, suited up for night shift. Didn't tell a soul. When I got back to my cot, I opened the email again, typed 1 word, acknowledged, sent. That was it. No plea, no drama, no threats. Briggs, the guy in the bunk across from me, picked up on it. "Something off, man," he mumbled without looking away from his chessboard app. "Just things back home," I said. He gave a half. That was the end of it. Military guys, we know when to press and when to back off. Truth is, I'd felt it coming. Months before I left, things shifted. Little stuff. Melissa stopped packing my lunch. Claimed she was swamped with late calls at the clinic where she managed admin. Started jogging at night. Got laser hair removal and new shoes I'd never seen before. Changed her phone password. Said it was for work. I didn't pry. That's not how I operate. But I wasn't naive either. I started making quiet moves. I rented a small storage locker across town. Tucked in my discharge papers, our marriage certificate, and the title to the truck, which, thankfully, was in my name. I moved my dad's cufflinks and my grandma's keepsake quilt there too. And I opened a new account at a credit union she didn't know about. Small deposits. Spaced out? Nothing she'd notice. Just enough to not be stranded if the floor dropped out. At the airport, before I deployed, she hugged me with one arm, said stay safe. No tears, no clinging. Like I was a neighbor going on a work trip. I should have known then. Part of me did. But another part still wanted to believe. She didn't know I was ready. She didn't understand I'm not the guy who throws punches first. But I will finish the fight. Melissa and I met in Austin at a friend's engagement party. I was on leave, visiting my cousin. She'd just dropped out of nursing school and picked up a gig managing a dental office. Less pressure, she said. We got married that winter. She used to tell people she was proud of what I did, though she never really got it. Her dad was a civil engineer. Her mom ran a boutique, no military background. She'd ask when I was going to move on to something stable. Never grasped that after 14 years, this was my career. We bought our house in 2015, a 2-bed, 1-story place outside San Antonio. Simple, but it was ours. The loan was in my name. So the mortgage was too, though. I added her to the title later, because that's what married people do. My father passed a year after the wedding car accident. Mom followed 4 years later. Breast cancer. They left me some inheritance, not life-changing, but enough to pay down debt and build a small safety net. I deployed 3 times during our marriage, Kuwait, once Qatar, twice. Each time I came home, Melissa felt a little more out of reach, like I was watching someone slowly drift off from the shore. One night, after I mentioned maybe extending my contract another 2 years, she said, "I didn't marry into this life to be sleeping alone half the year." I got it. I really did. But the Air Force was the one place I ever felt steady. I had a purpose, a rhythm. I was the guy people leaned on. That mattered to me. In 2020, small shifts started showing up. Melissa would get snappy if I called during her wine nights. She mentioned how her old college roommate, Claire, had left her husband and was finally living for herself. Then came the comments about how we'd grown in different directions, and how I didn't really understand her anymore. I brought up couples counseling once. She said we didn't need it, that we were just in a rough patch. But then came the longer work nights. The weekends away with coworkers I'd never heard of. The new wardrobe, a gym pass that barely got used. I never called her out. Not my style. My dad always said, measure twice, speak once. So I observed. I waited. Because somewhere in my gut I knew And if there's one thing you learn in this life, it's to trust your gut. 2 weeks after that email, I was in the dining hall at Al Udeid when my phone buzzed a banking alert. Another withdrawal, $88,500. I set my fork down, opened the app. The joint account was sitting at $22.15. The savings we'd built for nearly a decade, $47,000, gone, transferred to some account I didn't recognize. My teammate Burns glanced over. Everything cool? Yeah, I muttered. Just bank stuff. That night, I called our credit union from the basis comes room. Turns out Melissa had been draining accounts for weeks, small moves at first, then bigger ones. The major transfers began the morning after I deployed. I ended the call and just stood in the hall, listening to guys FaceTiming their kids, laughing with their wives, checking fantasy football scores, normal life swirling all around me, while mine was quietly unraveling. That's when Carter found me. He said Alvarez told him I looked like I'd seen a ghost over chow. I told him straight. Melissa cleaned out our accounts, sent divorce papers while I was on night watch, moved her personal trainer into our place in Phoenix. Carter didn't give me the usual "man, that sucks, or you'll bounce back." He just looked at me and asked, "What's your move?" "I don't know yet," I told him. He nodded once. "You will. Let me know if you need backup." That night, sleep wasn't coming, so I pulled out my laptop and logged into our home. Melissa probably forgot I had remote access too. The cameras showed a pickup I didn't recognize in the driveway. Some guy walking our dog, sipping from my favorite travel mug, wearing my old Air Force hoodie, and Melissa, barefoot in the kitchen I remodeled with my own hands. Laughing like the world was new. Something shifted in me. Not rage, not grief either. Something colder, sharper. I shut the laptop, opened my phone, and started writing a list. Call Tyler Jagbuddy from tech school. Review TSP and pension security. Revisit VA loan clauses. Email MSGT Rivers about emergency leave. Dig up the refinance docs Melissa asked me to sign last fall. And just like that, the sadness slipped away. I didn't even feel angry. I felt focused, like I was prepping for a mission. This wasn't emotional anymore. This was strategy. Before my shift at the hangar, I sent an email to James with the subject line, "Need legal help. Discreet and urgent." His reply came just over an hour later. "Call me. Secure line only." When I hung up, I knew exactly what needed to happen. No yelling, no threats, no confrontation, just time, patience. Let our actions become the trap. 2 months later, I was back on US soil. I didn't tell Melissa I was coming home, no heads up, no texts. I checked into a motel outside San Antonio under a different name, then called James. We met at a diner just off I-35. "You look like hell," he said as he slid into the booth. "Feel like it too," I replied. He handed me a folder. Everything we discussed. Mortgage docs, account statements, and this. He pulled a separate sheet from the stack. "Found something while combing through your finances." It was a refinance application, signed by my except it wasn't my signature. Wrong middle initial. Stroke pattern didn't match. "Melissa did this?" I asked, though I already knew. James nodded. 3 months ago. She pulled $330,000 in equity using your name. VI loans in your name only. Your signatures legally required. Forge my name. Drain the equity. Empty our savings. File for divorce from a base I couldn't even leave," I muttered. "Busy woman," James said, "and it gets better." She listed her boyfriend as co-applicant. "Ryan, you know he's got to. DU is and a fraud charge from 19. I took a long breath. "What are my options?" "Plenty," James said. "But first, you need to be clear on what you want." I paused. "I want what's mine, and I want her to understand there are consequences." James gave me a slow smile. "Then here's what we do." The next morning, I drove past our old house. Ryan's truck was gone. Melissa's sedan was in the driveway. I parked a few blocks down, watched for a bit, thought about knocking, confronting, but that wasn't the mission. Instead, I drove to the credit union, met with the loan officer who'd handled the refinance. Showed my military ID, my actual signature on my license. The forged docs Melissa submitted. He went pale. I need to report this immediately. I understand, I said. Police reports already filed. That night, I got a text from Melissa. Who've you been talking to at the bank? Ryan said someone was asking questions. I didn't respond. The next day, I filed formal documents at the county clerk's office, contesting the refinance due to forgery, blocking any changes to the property without my written approval. 2 days later, Melissa called. I let it go to voicemail. David, we need to talk. The bank called me about the house. What are you doing? If this is about the divorce, we can handle it like adults. Like adults. Same words from her email. Still no response. James called that afternoon. They froze the refinance funds. And there's more your truck. The one still titled in your name. Yeah. Ryan was driving it. Got pulled over this morning. License still suspended from those DUIs. They impounded the vehicle. Good. I found something else in the truck, James said. Prescription pads. From the dental clinic where Melissa works. And they weren't blank. I closed my eyes. She's been stealing prescription pads. Looks that way. Cops are investigating. I hung up and sat on the edge of the motel bed in San Antonio. This was getting bigger than I expected. A part of me wanted to call Melissa, warn her. Old instincts. But then I remembered the security footage. My dog, my house, my entire life handed over like it was disposable. This was the path now. I couldn't turn back and, honestly, I didn't want to. The next morning, I met with the bank's fraud investigator, Thompson, short guy, tired eyes, coffee stain on his tie. This happens more than you'd think, he said, spreading documents across the desk. One spouse deploys, the other sees an opportunity. What happens now? We've frozen the remaining funds from the fraudulent refinance. But there's a problem. What kind of problem? Some of the money's already gone. How much? About half. $14,600. I leaned in. Where did it go? Thompson hesitated. Technically, I'm not supposed to tell you that. It's my name on the loan. My house. My forged signature. My money. He looked at me for a long moment, then slowly turned the screen toward me. These are the transfers out of the refinance account. I scanned the screen. Multiple wire transfers to someone named Daniel Spencer. Not Ryan, not her trainer. Someone new. Who the hell is Daniel Spencer? Thompson shrugged. Not my department. But your lawyer can subpoena the rest. I called James the second I left the building. Daniel Spencer. He repeated, give me an hour. He called back sooner. Got him? Real estate agent. Works quick sale cash deals. She was planning to sell the house. Looks that way, James replied. Those payments, probably earnest money to list the place. But here's where it gets weird. Spencer's done business with Ryan before. Ryan, Melissa's boyfriend. Yep, they've closed 3 deals in the last 2 years. I sat down on a bench outside a park, trying to process it all. This wasn't just Melissa leaving me for some gym rat. No, James said carefully. It might have been a setup. I dug deeper. Jeremy Ryan has a pattern. Gets involved with women who are either divorcing or whose spouses are deployed. And then the house gets sold. Fast. Always below market. To one of Spencer's clients. Ryan gets a cut. Then he moves on. I rubbed my face. And Melissa. Hard to say. Maybe she's another victim. Maybe she's in on it. This wasn't just betrayal. This was organized. Calculated. And other military families had likely been hit too. What now? I've already contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. We're crossing state lines, VA loans, active duty personnel. They're interested. That night, I sat in the motel room with a beer, thinking, had Melissa been playing me since the beginning? Or had she just gotten swept up in someone else's scheme? My phone buzzed. A message from her. David, please call me. The bank said something about fraud, and Ryan got arrested in your truck. I don't know what's happening. I stared at the screen, typed who is Daniel Spencer. 3 dots appeared. Typing stopped. Started again. Stopped.com. Finally, I don't know what you're talking about. $14,6, multiple transfers, house listing. 10 minutes, no reply. Then, it's not what you think. I turned off the phone. Next morning, James called. FBI wants to meet. They've been investigating Ryan and Spencer for months. You're not the first, but you might be the one that breaks it open. For the first time since she sent that divorce email. Let's handle this like adults, I felt. Something close to satisfaction. Not because the marriage was over, but because the truth was finally surfacing. I met the FBI agents at their Phoenix field office, Agent Patel and Agent Donovan. They recorded my statement, took copies of everything James and I had gathered. Your case establishes a pattern, Patel said. It shows coordination, planning, that elevates this from personal fraud to criminal conspiracy. What about Melissa? I asked. My wife, ex-wife, I guess. The agents exchanged looks. We're still assessing her involvement, Donovan said carefully. Did she ever mention money problems? Pressure to sell the house? I thought back. She used to say we were house poor, that we should downsize. I didn't see the need. Our mortgage payments were manageable on my salary. Patel made a note. When did that start? About 6 months ago, I said. Around the time she must have met Ryan. And the refinance? Donovan asked. Never discussed it with me. She forged my signature while I was deployed. They asked more questions, took more notes. When we finished, Patel handed me her card. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, don't confront your wife or Ryan. We need to build this case carefully. I nodded, acknowledged. That evening, I drove back to the neighborhood, parked down the street from the house. Ryan's truck was back, must have gotten it out of impound. Melissa's car was gone. My phone buzzed. Text from her. We need to talk. In person. Meet me at Tempe Town Lake tomorrow. I showed the message to James over breakfast. Don't go, he said. Nothing good can come from that right now. I won't, I told him. But I do want to know what she's doing while she thinks I'm meeting her. We parked across the street from the house around 9:30 a.m. At 9:45, Melissa came out, got in her car, and drove off. Heading toward the lake, James said. Now we wait. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up. Real estate agent logo on the door. Daniel Spencer. Ryan stepped outside to greet him. They talked in the driveway, then went inside. Should we follow them? James asked. I shook my head. No need. I installed security cameras last year, interior and exterior. They upload to cloud storage. James smiled. You didn't mention that before. Never came up, I said, pulling out my phone.com. I opened the app and angled the screen toward him. Spencer and Ryan were in the living room. Spencer was taking photos. Ryan was pointing out features. I turned up the volume. Should list by the end of the week, Spencer said. Got a buyer interested already? Cash offer? As usual. How much? Ryan asked. $420. We list at $470. They offer $420. Everybody's happy. What about the husband? Melissa says he's causing trouble. Spencer waved it off. Military guys are all the same. They make noise, but they've got deployments, responsibilities. He'll take a settlement just to make it go away. I turned to James. You getting this? He was already recording the feed on his phone. Every word. I forwarded the cloud access to Agent Patel with a short message. Happening now. 30 minutes later, the cul-de-sac lit up with FBI vehicles. I watched from down the block as agents led Spencer and Ryan out in handcuffs. My phone rang. Got them on tape discussing the fraud, Agent Patel said. Conspiracy, wire fraud, and attempting to sell property under false pretenses. We'll need a formal statement from you. Of course, I said. And Mr. Briggs' wife just arrived. She's distressed. I looked down the street. Melissa stood on our lawn, hands over her mouth, watching agents carry boxes of documents out of the house. What happens to her? I asked. That depends, Patel said. On what? On what she knew, and on what you want. I looked at Melissa. 13 years of marriage. Some good years at the start before all of this. I just want what's right, I said finally. The federal case moved quickly. Ryan and Spencer both took plea deals, implicated each other, and half a dozen others in what turned out to be a 3-state operation, targeting military families. Melissa maintained she had no idea about the larger scheme. Said Ryan convinced her. Maybe that was true, maybe not. But for the first time since that email, let's handle this like adults. I felt something like closure, not because it was over, but because the truth had finally come out. She said you were hiding money, that you were planning to leave her with nothing, claimed the refinance was all your idea. But we found the digital trail sheet went full piracy and identity theft. Spencer got 12, Patel continued. Thought you'd want to know. Thank you, I said quietly. There's more, she added. We found evidence they'd pulled this scam on at least 11 other military families. Your case helped us connect the pattern. Because of you, they might finally get their money back. After we hung up, I sat on the porch of my rental apartment, watching the sun sink behind the desert hills. No neighbors for miles. Just silence, and a dry creek bed cutting through the scrub brush. I thought about those other families, other men who deployed, thinking their marriages and mortgages were safe, only to come home to silence and betrayal. I took early retirement from the Air Force. 20 years. That was enough. I'd given enough, got a dog, a German Shepherd named Scout, started doing carpentry work for local simple jobs. Nothing fancy, but it kept my hands moving, kept the days honest. My military pension covered the rest. Sometimes, I thought about Melissa, wondered where she ended up. James said she moved back to her hometown in Oregon, working admin at another dental office. Starting over, I guess.com. I didn't hate her. Not anymore. When the memories got too loud or the silence too heavy, I'd take out that letter. The one that started it all. Let's handle this like adults. And I'd remember. Something good came from all of it. Last I heard, Ryan was still behind bars. Spencer too. The system had worked for once. And me. I was still here. Finding my footing, one quiet day at a time. Building something real. Something no one could forge, or fake, or take. Something that was mine, and only mine.